Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alison, the online piano and violin tutor. If the violin is shaking when you're trying to do vibrato, that is the number one sign that you are attempting vibrato too soon. Number one, the first thing you're going to need is a violin. I have been playing the violin since I was 4 years old. I went to university and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in music.
With the amazing talent that's Alison Sparrow. Alison, come out here.
So bear with me if there are any technical hitches, I'm sure it'll be fine. For about 5 years I was an examiner for the London College of Music. And over the years I've seen basically the music world from every kind of possible view really, and because of that it has enabled me to write my own violin course. Hello everyone and welcome. So there we go, that's kind of all you really need to know. And don't forget guys, anyone can learn to play the violin. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live. As you can see, I'm still here on holiday. I'm actually in the Dominican Republic at the moment, for those of you who don't know and think that my surroundings look a little bit different than what they usually are. I've scheduled another live stream for next Sunday as well, just because when we come back I won't have time to do it on the Friday. So just so you know, I'm just public service announcement now, next week's live stream will be Sunday and then it will be back to Friday from there on. So, hello everyone and welcome back again. It's nice to see some old and new faces. Hello Tammy, Chris, Mia, Alarm Works, Anmol, Bridget, Birgit, incorrect, sorry. Hello from Italy. Now, I've got some few questions sitting here on my phone. Again, apologies because I haven't got my violin with me because obviously I'm on holiday. So I'm going to try and answer as many questions as I can. And as I said last week, if I have a question that I need a violin for, I'll note it down and I'll forward it on to next week's video. Right, let's get on with it. So let's start off with a question that I've got in from Ron. Ron has said that he is on lesson 26 of 30. This is from my 1 to 30 violin course. So it is these ones that are coming up there. For those of you who don't know, I have a 1 to 30 violin course. All the information is there and I'll put links underneath. So Ron is on this course and he's done third position and he's on the purple books that are here, just so that you know for context. Let's put that screen back. So Ron has said, I've nailed third position. So third position is in the first half of book 3, lessons 21 to 25. So he's nailed third position and the bowing techniques are not 100% there yet. So third position is lessons 21 to 25. And then I've got some bowing techniques in the latter half of that book, lessons 26 and 30. And then obviously you'd move on to your songbook, which practices everything that you've learned in those books or in the tutorial books. So he's done his third position, that's great, and he's okay with that, but his bowing techniques are not 100% there yet. I've decided to start on songbook 3 so I can practice what I've learned in the lesson books. Can I do that or should I wait until I've finished the course? Well, yes, of course. Yeah, of course you can absolutely do that. It doesn't really matter what order you kind of necessarily do things in, as long as you do come back to them and as long as you are doing things. I think there is a lot to be said for constantly working yourself into a frenzy when you are working on one particular part. And I know a lot of you have put this in the comments. I think, Mia, you've said this to me before. Bia, when you're sometimes Bia Messina, I think is your name, when you've sometimes come on here. A few of you guys that are always watching and following me, I know you've said this before. Can you move on because you're getting yourself worked up, being stuck on one particular thing? So yes, I think there's a difference between you not necessarily getting stuck, but I think you moving on too soon. So you at least want to give it a bit of a go. But if it's something that's just really not clicking, and I can't really think of anything off the top of my head because it's been so long since I was learning, but I'm sure that there were parts of my learning that I just couldn't get. There was some things I just couldn't get. So I stuck at it. I did it again and again and again, and I still couldn't get the hang of it. So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to park that over there. I'm going to move on, and then I'll come back to it. Sometimes you need to move on, and sometimes you need to learn the next stage so that you can gain those skills that you didn't really quite know that you needed, so that when you come back to doing that particular technique or whatever it is, bowing, whatever, when you come back to doing that, you've got a bit more hindsight, you've moved on, you've progressed, things have just clicked even more into place, and then you can come back. Sometimes you just have a mental block, but obviously I wouldn't be doing that if you've just started a new technique or whatever it is that is causing you the problem. I wouldn't be doing that and then just sort of going, oh, I can't be bothered with this, or, it's too difficult, and then moving on without giving it a good try. I'm talking about something, excuse me, I'm talking about something that, you really have tried, but you just, for whatever reason, couldn't nail it. So, bowing techniques are probably one of the last things that I think are particularly necessary to play a piece of music on the violin, which is why I've put them in the last sort of 4 or 5 lessons of my course. Because although you do need them, eventually you don't need them. You have to do them, but you don't need them initially. So you do need to read music. You do need to know what the notes are on the music, and you do need to know what the notes are on the violin. You do need to know how to go into positions. You do need to do this, that, and the other, but you don't necessarily need to do all the fancy bow techniques. So spiccato, staccato, martelé bowing, slurred bowing, and all those kinds of various other bowing techniques. They're not 100% important at that stage. So you can play any piece of music that you like. It just won't be polished off very nicely because you won't be putting the what's the word I'm looking for? You won't be sort of giving it that nice variation because, or putting the finishing touches to it, because you're missing out on the kind of those bowing techniques. But you can still play the notes, and you can still get everything else out, and you can still make the sound on the violin. You just won't be able to, give it that kind of, you won't be able to give it that kind of finishing touch. So yes, you can move on, just as long as you move back to that. Oh, hello, Bea. You are here. Hello, Sue. Right. So moving on to the next one. I've received a few comments underneath a video that I did actually whilst I was on another holiday several years ago. It must have been, 4 or 5 years ago now. And it was one of the holidays that I did bring my violin on, and I was changing strings, or giving you a few hints and tips on how to change strings. And that video has become quite popular. And I keep seeing a lot of comments under that video about string snapping. It seems to be just a massive thing with you guys that you just don't want to change your strings, or you're just afraid to change your strings. When to change your strings, I can talk about just in just a few minutes. But the one thing that's going to cause you to break your strings is when you're turning the peg. So let's say you've taken your E string off. Let's face it, that's the one that everybody's worried about, because they're worried that it's going to come off and take an eye out. So let's say you've got your violin, you've taken your E string off, and you're going to put another E string on. What you really want to be doing is, once you've put the E string through the appropriate hole in the peg, and you've kind of wound it up so it's not kind of hanging loose. Let's say you've tightened it and now you want to tune it. You're going to break it when you just keep tuning it up to the note that you need to tune it up to. So that's the quickest way that you're going to break a string. What you need to do is get that string used to being in a certain length. So sometimes most of the time what I will do, because I pay a lot of money for my strings, I'll probably pay close to about £200 for a set of my strings. One of my G strings, for example, I think I spoke about this in last week's video, or no, I think it was the week before actually. I think Sue may have asked that question. I spoke about one of the strings that I buy, and one of those was a Parastro Passione G string, extra high tension, and those are really, really expensive. Those are not much change out of £100, maybe $100, something like that. So I don't want to be breaking any of my strings, because I can't afford to just keep, oh, well, it's broken, and then buying another string. I don't want to do that. So what I will do is I'll take my strings off one at a time. Never take them all off, by the way. You'll potentially drop the sound post inside. So take all the strings off, don't take all the strings off, replace each string one at a time, and then tighten the strings a little, just so that they're not, just so they're not kind of wobbling about. So just tighten the strings up a little, put them all so they're nicely taut, tighten them a touch, and then I leave it for about a good half an hour just to let the string stretch, because don't forget the string has been wound up into a coil, or however it's coming, usually in those sometimes they come flat, but usually they're in those coils. They've been wound up in a coil, and now you've put tension on the string, and now you're expecting your very expensive string to go from a coil to a tension and even higher tension, because you're trying to stretch it into a G, a D, an A, or an E. So load up your strings, put some tension on them just so that they're not slack, tension them just a little bit more just to give them a little something, and then just let them cook. Let them sit for about half an hour, and then when you come back to it, they should be sort of, used to the tension that they're in, and then you can start to tune them. But just tune them bit by bit. You will never break a string if you just tune it bit by bit. So I'll do the E string, and I'll maybe I'll turn it maybe just a quarter turn, maybe half a turn, and that's it. Then I'll go over to the A string, quarter to a half turn, that's it. D string, same thing. G string, same thing. And then I'll come back to the E string and do the process over again. So it takes a really, really long time. But the quickest way to break your string is to just get a string and tune it up all the way to the top. No good, because, it would be like having an elastic band and just taking it from its slack position to stretching it really far and expecting it to do that, whereas it's kind of easier to sort of do it sort of in stages. So don't be afraid to change any strings because of that. Right, I see a question from Bea. Oh, by the way, if you do ask a question and I do miss your question, I'm really sorry, ask it again. Sometimes the chat, I see them, and sometimes the chat goes and then they sort of go up to the top and I don't see them. So I'm not missing your question on purpose. Just ask it again and then I should see it. So Bea says, "Hi Alison, holiday related question. I know I'm supposed to practice daily. Is it bad when I go on holiday for, let's say, a week or two and not take the violin? Sometimes it's not." No, of course not. You're not going to lose anything after 2 weeks. It's like saying you have gone to the effort of losing a lot of weight, a couple of stone or whatever, and you're trying to keep it off, and then you're going on holiday, and it's like going to a place where it's just full of cakes and chips and burgers and all the kind of yummy stuff in life, and you're worried that you don't want to pig out too much because you don't want to put too much weight on at the end of the holiday. So, you just act a bit sensible, but you come back off holiday and you put a little bit of weight on, and then you get back into your routine and the weight will just drop off again, because it's kind of, it's just water weight or just new weight. So you're not, same as that. You're not going to go on holiday for 2 weeks and come back 4 stone heavier. It doesn't work that way. So you're not going to go away for 2 weeks. It's like saying I'm away for 2 weeks and I don't have my violin. When I come back next week, have I forgotten how to play? No, you don't, because don't forget the violin it's very repetition. So it's very memory related. It's a bit like riding a bike. Lots of people who have not played the violin for a really long time. Did someone... Yeah, in fact, Kev Mirth, I think. Hello from snowy Kansas. I haven't played in 60 years, but my son just got me a violin for my birthday. It's so scary, it sounds so bad. So there you go. I can answer both questions at the same time. So that person there has not had a violin in 60 years. Are they going to be able to play it? Of course they can. Absolutely, they'll be able to play it, because it's just something that you just don't forget. I've got a hair in my mouth. It's something that it's just something that you don't forget. So granted that they, maybe all over the shop with it and it won't be quite what they remember, but they will know exactly how to hold the bow, more or less, or it'll just take a quick little video for them to just, oh yeah, finger there, and that's how you hold the bow, and they'll know instantly that the violin, oh, you can't see me, they'll know instantly that the violin goes here. They'll know what the strings, you just know. You don't have to tell, you wouldn't have to tell them, you would just know. Maybe they would just watch a refresher video or something like that, but you would know. So you don't just go on holiday and come back after 2 weeks and just your brain has just forgotten everything. It doesn't work that way. So just relax it. In actual fact, it can do you a bit of good. I've gone through times where, especially when I was learning, so I'm kind of past all my education days now, obviously, but when I was learning, I would find that maybe taking a break of a week did the world of good. It was almost like I'd be practicing and just nothing would happen. I'd be practicing for hours a day for weeks and weeks and months and months and months, and nothing, I'd got to a point where I was practicing something and it's almost like nothing was happening. And then you go away for a week or you don't practice for a week, you come back and I don't know what magic has suddenly been inserted, but it's almost like you're just some kind of violin genius. It all just kind of clicks into place. So having a break can actually be quite good, but don't take the violin on holiday. Have a break with it. You just, you won't forget anything. I promise you. Right. Hi, Claudia. What else have we got there? Pacific Northwest Pilots. I've just started the process of playing the violin. I'm currently working on the first finger exercises. Good. Claudia, is your course online or is it showed us books and so these books, Claudia, these books that you see up there, these are all, everything is 100% downloadable. So it's a 1 to 30 violin course, 100% downloadable, $60 US, one-time payment. First 10 lessons are absolutely free. So everything you need for the first 10 lessons, all the materials and everything you need are absolutely free. You just obviously need a violin and a bow. And then after that, you'll start with the course. So let me just go back to that again. Once you've done the first 10 lessons, you'll start with, if I can see it, where is it there? You'll start with Songbook 1 and then move on the course. So the links to purchase the course are underneath. But as I said, a one-time payment, it's 100% downloadable. So you can either look at it on a tablet. I know this is a phone, but your tablet, your computer, or you can print them out at home or have a local printers print them out for you for a few dollars, whichever is kind of easier. Mia, about the G string. I got my violin with strings from a man who makes violins. A violinist recommended him. It is a student violin, but is it normal for the G string to sound very dusty? I'm not quite sure what you mean, very dusty. It might be that... Did the violin luthier or the guy that you went to, do you know if he's put new strings on the violin? It could just be that string doesn't suit the violin. If it sounds, when you mean dusty, do you mean it's a little bit growly, kind of sounding a little bit sort of bitey sounding? Depends if it's a brand new string, then it could just be that you need to wear the tone off. So when you get new strings, especially if they're nice strings, they have a nice kind of coating to them, and then it's when that coating eventually wears off is when they sound a little bit sort of dead and lifeless, and then you need to replace them. So so it just depends. Or if it is just that you picked up a violin and it just came with the strings that you've got and he didn't put them on, then it might just be a case that you just need a new G string. Totally out of subject. What? It's a Dior lipstick, by the way. One of the new holiday, the Christmas ones that they've just released. For anyone that's interested. Chris, I'm on lesson 23. I thoroughly recommend Alison's course. Oh, thank you. Amy, yes, I did get your message earlier on YouTube. Sorry everyone, just a side note for Amy. I've asked you to email me at Alison@AMS Music Tuition, and we'll get you sorted. So email me there. I've replied to your comment, and we'll get you sorted with the course, so don't worry about that. Okay, do I have another question on here? Okay, so I've got another question from someone. I forgot to mark down their name, but someone else has asked, can I improve my student violin with better strings? So yes, you can do that. Actually, the other question that I was going to answer, do I have to start off with a student quality violin, or should I buy a more expensive one to start off with? So I want to answer those two questions kind of together, really, because they kind of go hand in hand. So starting off, should you start off with, what type of violin should you start off as a beginner? Should you just start off with cheapest violin you can find, or sort of a more decent one, or a much more expensive one? So the answer to that obviously depends on your budget, I think. depending on what you can afford, and also how you sort of feel about the violin. I mean, if I would always say that if you're going to do something, if you're going to learn to play the violin and your budget is decent, don't buy anything under $100. In fact, don't buy anything close to $100 or £100. You're not going to get anything nice for that. I think a minimum spend for something that isn't going to drive you up the wall, I think a minimum spend in US dollars would be something like $200 to $250. I think $250 probably in today's money would be more realistic. Maybe a few years ago you could have got your $250 for $200, but probably $250 I'd say. And I think for UK, around about probably the same, about 200 to 250 pounds. So I think if you can afford something like that, then do it. It will just drive you up the wall if you get anything cheaper. If you get something a little bit cheaper, so if you are getting like your, a $50 violin or a $60, $70 violin, you're just not going to get anything great. You're going to be fighting with the instruments so much that I think you're just going to have more problems. You're just going to find it so difficult to learn because there's just so many problems going on, because the violin, you're going to be fighting against the strings, you're going to be fighting against the bridge being so flat because the bridge isn't flat enough and it's not curved enough. Every time you're playing, you're going to be hitting all the other strings. Then you're going to be going onto YouTube, typing in how do I not hit other strings on the violin. Then you're going to be trying to sort out that. You're going to be doing all of these exercises. I've got a ton of videos on those. You're going to try and do those exercises. You're going to get frustrated because you're still hitting the strings, or because your bridge is just so flat, and it's the violin's problem, not yours. So I would never say that you should spend, it's too cheap. But then on the other hand, I appreciate it if you don't have the kind of budget for it and you just want to kind of test the waters. But again, it's a little bit counterproductive to go so cheap and test the waters, because you're going to be fighting too much with the violin. If you can't afford your $200 violin, maybe save up for it. Birthday, Christmas, that kind of thing. Family members might help you, or rent them. If you think that I'd really like to start to play the violin, but I'm just not sure. Instead of spending that $100 on a crappy violin, or just a violin that is going to be causing you more trouble than it's worth, maybe spend $100 worth in renting a violin for 2 or 3 months. Go at it for as long as you can, and then if you're thinking, oh yeah, I can't live without the violin here, I really want to keep up with it, then you can go and invest in something. So that brings me on to the second part of the question. Can I improve my student violin with better strings? So yes and no. I think it depends on what kind of violin you've got. If you've got a very, very cheap violin, under $100, I wouldn't bother. You can if you want to, and there are different types of quality strings that you can get. Parastro are a very good brand. Parastro do a brand of strings called Parastro Tonicas. Tonicas are very nice actually on student violins. I call them student, not the very cheap, under $100. But if you've got something that's $200, $250, or £250, that would be a nice student quality violin. So yes, you can improve the tone and sound with those. You'll find it much smoother, much clearer. And you'll find the tone will project a little bit more. The violin won't sound so nasally, and it won't sound like the sound is sort of falling inwards. The sound will be projected outwards. But I wouldn't spend the kind of money that I spend on my strings, because your violin won't respond to them enough. So it sort of depends. So I can see Tony, the Blue Pill Detox, I started with a $700 one. Yeah, so I mean, if you start with a $700 violin and you've got the budget for that, then I mean, yes, you're going to be you're going to be a genius right from the start. It's going to be that you are the problem and not the violin. Whereas when you've got a cheaper violin, you're the problem because you're learning, but also the violin is the problem. And again, you're trying to. It's like a carpenter trying to saw wood with a blunt saw. Maybe the job can be done, but he could have got the job done much quicker, 10 times faster, much smoother edges, because he's sawing much quicker because the blades are really sharp. So So yeah, if you can if you can start with something better, that's obviously going to be better, and then it means that you aren't going to be upgrading at all. But it depends with the strings. Go for something sort of middle of the road, parastrotonicas, or something like that. That will, or dominant strings. They're not too bad. The parastrotonicas I think are slightly brighter, but the dominant strings are quite decent strings too. Usually when you get your cheaper violin, you'll just have those really, really cheap kind of Chinese strings that are only about £5, and they're really not nice at all. I've tried them and they're not that great. So, do we have any more questions? We might have a quick video today, a quick streaming video session today. It depends how many more questions we have to answer. Let me just see. Someone's just like, your nails are beautiful. Do you play with them at that length? No, I answered this last week. My nails are very long at the moment just because my nails grow like you wouldn't believe. So I do have to... this is 2 weeks of growth with my nails, and I'm on holiday for 2 weeks. So yes, I have just let them grow, and I've put some gel on them. So, but no, I don't. When I go home, I might leave these for as long as I can, and then I'll cut them down, and then I'll be able to play again. So it just sort of depends. If I'm not playing anything, then I let them grow. But no, I don't, and I can't play this length. But obviously I'm on holiday, so I've just let them grow because why not? Okay, Jessie, I started on the first finger lessons and had lost 2 months due to my work. My fingers are all loose now. Can I just retune and tighten, or do I need to restring? Just restring them. Yeah, they may some. It depends if you are if you're in somewhere humid. I know in the UK when it's really, really humid, sometimes we don't really have a lot of hot days, but generally when we do have some hot days, because I have a lot of gut strings, my violin does not like gut strings. I try not to have gut strings on in the summer. I wouldn't want to be having gut strings on when it's very, very humid because they don't perform in heat very well. They often unwind quite often and quite a lot. So yeah, if you are somewhere where the temperature is very hot, very kind of humid, don't get gut strings. But it just seems like your strings may have just they might have just, as long as they're not broken, or have a look at the top, just where the peg box is, just to see if you've got any twines of the string that have come out. But if the string looks fine, then just retune it. You don't need to buy some new strings unless you've had your strings on there for a really, really long time and they're just dead, or they physically broken. But other than that, you can kind of get away. If you're professional, then you'd want to be changing them more often, obviously. But for you guys that are just learning, you could probably get away with changing them once a year, something like that. Maybe. I don't think you'd notice the difference. I think you'd be fine just on once a year. So yeah, just tighten them up. And Leah says, I'm thinking of getting a softer rosin to try out to get a better reaction and warmer tone. Thinking of getting the Parastro, either Parazzi Olive or Gold. Is the up price for the gold worth it? I have not tried those. The rosin that I use is Sartori rosin. I'll see if I can find a link to it. If I can't find a link that works, I'll just find a link to it anyway, and you can see what I'm looking at. I have tried a lot of rosins. I haven't tried the Eva Parazzi personally because I've had some friends in the industry that have tried it and they've kind of never been too keen on it. I also don't like the Eva Parazzi strings, so I think that's probably another reason why I've kind of been put off that. So it should be a good rosin because it is a Parastro one, but there is a Gold Flex rosin as well, and I don't really think the gold is doing it. Rosin is tree sap, and it depends how. A lot of rosins are very proprietary, and they won't tell you how they make them. So they're made. I know a lot of them are made from tree sap, and it depends how fresh they are and how they make them, and all this kind of jazz. I'm sure I've done a blog post on it at some point. I'll see if I can try and link it underneath. So it depends on that, but I don't think the gold is gonna. It's no more than just what is that Yves Saint Laurent kind of serum that you put on before foundation that has gold bits in. I mean, it doesn't do anything to your skin particularly, and it just kind of melts into the skin, but you buy it because it looks nice in the bottle, but it doesn't do anything more for your skin. So I don't think the gold is going to do anything more in the rosin, in my opinion. Tony, do you think the Pernambuco bows are worth it? I have a Pernambuco bow. I'm looking at the Holstein 3 Star from Fiddler Shop, and I'm not sure if it's worth it for a beginner. I'm just a little bit worried that they're going to get banned due to the rarity of the wood. This is not something I've heard about. Maybe this is something that I do need to look into. But I have a Pernambuco bow. I'm not sure about the banning. I'll have to look into that. So I can't really comment on that one. But I mean, I've had my bow for 15 years. Last time I bought a new bow, I spent a lot of money. I spent a few £1,000s/dollars on the bow that I've got to get the finishing bow that I want. I will probably never change that bow again. I'll likely to change my violin if I change my violin, but I won't change the bow because there's no need to change the bow. The bow is more to do with the weight and feel, so that's never going to change unless my hand or my technique or my arm changes. So my bow for me is based on the exact weight for my arm and my playing and my right hand or whatever. So I like the Pernambuco bows. I think they're a mix of wood, aren't they? But they have a nice bend in them, and if you get them with some nice horsehair, they can be nice bows. It's the carbon fibre bows that I don't really like, but I do like. I've always liked Pernambuco bows, and I've always had Pernambuco bows. But yes, I'll look into. I'll look into what you mean about the rarity of the wood and see if I come up with anything. Okay, let me just see what else we've got. Thank you. I just learned from you. My first violin cost $75. It would cost $700 today. Started with it. So it seems like a lot of you are actually starting with some decent violins then. Yeah. That's a really good way round of doing it. It's just, because you're not going to have a problem with it, are you? If you've got a good violin, the problem isn't going to be with the violin. The problem is going to be you. And that's fine because you can improve. You can progress. You can get better. When you're fighting, there's nothing worse than just fighting with a violin and trying to do all your techniques and the violin's just not having it. At what point during your course is it fair to learn the Christmas songs? Now, learn some Christmas songs now. My violin book, I've only got one violin Christmas book, and there's lots of easy ones in there. There's a few slightly harder ones in there. Christmas songs aren't particularly difficult songs anyway, but my Christmas book comes with backing tracks as well, available on my shop. Everything's 100% downloadable. Why don't you start now? I'm going to be releasing some Christmas songs on my Patreon, some Christmas music, on my Patreon as of next Friday, because it's the 1st of December. So I'll be releasing Christmas stuff all the way, Christmas music all the way on my Patreon page throughout December. So I think you can start now for this time of year, but also I think from where you've said you are in your playing, there are some easy, Silent Night is quite easy in there. I'm just trying to think what else I've got in there on top of my head that's easy. But like I say, there's a few slightly more challenging ones in there, so you can leave those till later. But I don't see why you can't do that. I've designed the book so that there were some slightly more difficult ones in there and some really, really easy ones in there. And there's also some tab music as well for anyone that's not quite confident in sort of reading music. So in terms of where you are in your learning career then, or learning journey, then yes, I think, I don't see why you'd have trouble learning those Christmas songs now. A few more questions. Then we've just got a few minutes left, haven't we? Savish, is a shoulder rest mandatory to do vibrato? I don't believe it is. I don't use a shoulder rest, and I've not used a shoulder rest for about 30 years. A shoulder rest is completely your personal preference. I've spoke about this before a lot, but it really just depends on you. So to answer your question, no, it is not mandatory to do vibrato. As I said, I don't use a shoulder rest at all, and I can still do vibrato absolutely fine. So I think if you don't like using a shoulder rest, then you don't like using a shoulder rest, you'll do vibrato. If you do like using a shoulder rest, it still won't affect it kind of either way. Wolfman, what style of music is the easiest to learn in your opinion? I enjoy the classical and the gospel hymn types of music. I don't really think any style of music is particularly easy. I think it's sort of that would just be a bit more of a sweeping statement. It's like saying, is classical music easy or difficult? Well, Ode to Joy is a classical piece of music, and that's dead easy. It's a really, really easy piece of music. I have it in my songbook 1, for example, but then you've got classical pieces that are ridiculously stupid. Some of the Paganini caprices are just so ridiculously stupid you just wouldn't believe it. So all of them are going to be quite difficult. I think hymns generally they're not particularly complex, so I think hymns are quite easy to play. But yeah, I think in all genres you've got some easy pieces and difficult pieces. So I couldn't really say that that genre is much easier to play than that one, because each genre is going to have more complicated kind of pieces in. Right, just the last couple of questions. Cara, what should students be able to play at year 1? Any particular songs that you recommend? My year will be March 23. I've been working on "O Come All Ye Faithful" with slurs for Christmas. That's a really, really difficult question to answer, because it really does depend. There is no kind of where you should be in year 1, where you should be in year 2 particularly. I know I've done a video on this sort of, but in the past, on what you should be learning in months 1 to 3, months 3 to 6, that kind of thing. But I don't really have a checklist that I could say, right, have you done this, and this? Yep, great. Have you done this? No. You should have been doing. It doesn't really kind of work that way, but I would say by the time you get to a year, you should be reading music. Reading basic music shouldn't be a problem. So any pieces in my songbook 1, or just any kind of basic pieces, you should be able to put in front of you, and you shouldn't have a problem kind of reading them. Will you be able to do more complex stuff? Probably not. You won't be able to do all the bowing techniques and vibrato and all this, that, and the other, but then you won't need to. But as long as you can do a good basic set of scales, a good kind of half a dozen different scales, and as long as playing some basic or easy type sheet music, that shouldn't be a problem for you. So I'd say a year down the line, you should be able to play easy-ish, kind of maybe even heading towards lower intermediate end type music. I'm sorry, that's quite a general answer really, but like I say, there isn't really sort of a particular checklist, should I say. Chris, I took your tip on the Sartori Rosin a couple of months ago and got some from the String Zone. How are you getting on with it? Do you like it? I love that Rosin. Tony, I just heard that you can't travel to some places with it. Okay. I've never heard of it because I don't take mine out of the country. If I do, the violins that I have taken when I've used them when we have been on holiday, they've not been my actual real violin, because I can't trust. You've got to put it in the hold, and it'll just get slung all over the show. So I've only ever bought just cheaper ones that I just use to kind of demonstrate. But I just couldn't take one on this holiday. So yeah. If it's just travelling, then I guess that's only going to affect you if you are travelling. What else have we got? Bear with me a second. I need to upgrade my bow next year. I heard that a bow needs to be about 20% of the... I don't really think those numbers kind of make a difference. I think you're just going to be looking at a bow that's going to be a good couple of hundred... a couple of £100 or a couple of $100. I think if you 20% the violin's price, it depends what kind of depends on what 20% of your violin's price is, really. If your violin is really, really cheap, then it's not going to be a lot of money, is it? So I don't really believe that, but I kind of feel like you've got to be spending at least a couple of $100 or a couple of £100 on a bow to get something, to get a bow that's responsive. To get a bow with some nice wood, that isn't too thick, too light, too heavy, too this, too that. It's got a nice bend and all that kind of thing. And to get a bow that's got some nice horsehair on it as well. What do I think about Yamaha violins? I've not played a traditional Yamaha violin, but I've played the electric Yamaha violins. I'm not keen on the sound of those. I'm not great on Yamaha violins. I did have a Yamaha wooden violin or acoustic violin many years ago. It was just a student quality one. It was okay. It wasn't anything more than that. It was just a student quality violin because I had it when I was just, a teenager or a young teenager, kind of growing up as I was learning. But yeah, it was okay. But their electric violins, not particular. I don't like the sound of the electric violins. They sound very muted to me. There are other electric violins that just have much brighter sound. Okay, right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Anybody's question that I haven't answered, I'm really, really sorry in this session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'll leave the stream open for a couple of minutes, as I always do. I'm going to go through the chat and I'm going to see if I've missed any questions and write them down, and then I can respond to them in next week's video. So apologies if I have missed your question. I try to answer as many as I can. But yeah, I will go through and look at them and mark them down for next week. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll do another Q&A next week, and then we'll see what we're going to do the week after it. If anybody's got any specific requests of any type of videos, or if you just like these kind of random Q&As where you don't really know what we're going to be talking about, maybe you guys let me know. Maybe you guys like that, or if there's a bigger kind of topic that you want me to talk about. So thank you all very much for coming. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you all in next Sunday's video. Thank you for watching. Bye.